lay part. Boom. Hello and welcome to HobbyKing.com. My name is Stuart and I'm very pleased to bring you a presentation of a new model on this rather blustery day, but it doesn't matter because we're going to get right into it with the new Durafly Auto-G2 V2. Now, as I just mentioned, it is rather windy, so you can see the Auto-G moving around here. That's all completely natural. In fact, if I stand back, you'll see just naturally in the wind with the one-way bearing, it will start to rotate on its own, but I don't want it to spool up whilst we're here on camera because it will do naturally. Of course, it is an auto gyro. Now let me just talk you a little bit through the history of the Auto-G. Well, this is the Auto-G2 V2. That of course denotes that there was a previous version. In fact, there was two previous versions, the original Auto-G and then the Auto-G2, and this is the version 2 of the Auto-G2. Not that that really matters because we're talking about the G2 V2 right now, and I will go into the improvements that have been made over the previous version. If you weren't aware of the previous version, it was released quite some years ago, then this is all brand new to you anyway, so we're going to dive right into it and talk about the G2 V2. Okay, so let's just get right into it, the basic specs. The disc diameter on this is around 820 millimeters. The length is around 790 millimeters, and it's a really nice transportable model for sure. We'll get into that in a moment. It flies on a 1300 3S. There you go. That's this is around a 40C pack. You can fly anything from a 1200 up to a 1400 3S, and it has a Durafly 20 amp speed controller inside, which I'll show you in a minute, and it has an 800 kV brushless outrunner. You may recognize the free braid propeller. This is the same one that the Albatross and the Bushmule uses. Other than that, it has 4 9-gram high torque servos throughout. 2 for the roll, which is aileron if you like, and then 1 for rudder and 1 for elevator. And then of course you have your throttle control. Now you will need a 5th channel because this has an auto spool system. I'll give you a demonstration of that when we're out there, but essentially there's a brushed motor in here with a brushed speed controller, and that plugs into an aux switch on your transmitter, like a gear switch for example, and when you want to take off, you want to get the head up to speed, you flick the switch, the motor kicks in for the head, that spools it up to speed, and then the moment you take off, you turn that off, and then it's just flying naturally on the lift that's generated by the auto gyro head here. So let's talk about the features of the G2 V2. Well, as you can clearly see, the undercarriage has been much substantially beefed up. Handling is now exceptional on the ground. We'll give you a demonstration of that as well. It handles really nicely. There's no tipping over, there's no wobble. The previous version did have a lot of wobble both on the ground and in flight. That's all been eliminated now. So the bush style or tundra style undercarriage is definitely a prominent feature of the G2 V2. It's got a new color scheme, and if you know the tundra, you'll know that it's quite similar to that scheme. When doing this, I wanted to go with something that I know works and it looks good on the Tundra, so why not put it on the bush version, if you like, of the Auto-G. Going around the model, we've also added, for aesthetic purposes, we've added a cowl. There is a pilot included. This pilot is not painted out the box. It's a 3D printed pilot, but you could just simply use a marker pen to color in the visor, or you could go all out and paint it as you wish. So we've added a fairing to the tower here, which not only makes it more streamlined and efficient and aerodynamic, but also looks much better as well. The push rods are now carbon reinforced. You can see those rods on there. But the big thing, other than the undercarriage, is the head on this. We've got this glass reinforced plastic head plate, and it's first of all, it's much more durable. It has a bit more flex, and it's a lot more forgiving. This thing is extremely durable compared to previous iterations of the Auto-G. You can actually tip this over on the ground and none of the blades will break, which could have happened before. It also translates into a far more efficient flying design. In the air, it had vibrations in previous iterations. It's very much vibration free now. So you'll really see this when I demonstrate it in a moment, just how good that head is, and combined with the auto spool, It's a great combination, but remember, you only need the auto spool when you're initially getting up because it will naturally spin and generate lift pretty much on its own once it gets up to speed. Now, internally, the electronic components inside have been shrunk down. They are a lot smaller, and what that allows for is just a lot more convenience in terms of installing and removing your recommended pack, like this 1300 3S, for example. So now with the hatch off, you can see it's really clear in there. There's the 20 amp speed controller, the Durafly one I spoke about previously. Your servos are just in the back here. There is a hatch underneath, and that's where I have my receiver. In fact, I'll turn it over and give you a little peek of that as well. Okay, so here's the access hatch to the elevator and rudder servos. Take that off there. I've got a small FR Sky 6-channel receiver underneath and in between the servos there. That's very much nicely out the way, and it allows good access to those components in there. And this is just magnetically held as the main hatch is too. So I just pop that back on and we're ready to turn back over. So that's the internals. Now, an autogyro, or the autoG, you might be thinking, what exactly is it? It's an autogyro. So what that means is that the rotating disc acts to generate lift, but in that respect it's like a helicopter, but in every other way it flies like a plane. And what I love about this, and I think what a lot of you guys will love about it too, it's just very different. It's a cross between flying a helicopter and a fixed wing, but that being said, if you've only flown fixed wings, as long as you've used to coordinate your turns a bit with rudder, because it does take quite a bit of rudder in the turn, we'll show you that and talk you through that in a moment. As long as you have that skill under your belt, it's actually a very enjoyable experience. For myself, when I think about flying this, I've been flying like 20 plus years, and you get a bit bored sometimes, you get a bit of a rut of just flying the usual stuff. So to have something different on the market, and there really is nothing like this on the market at all, especially in plug and fly format, it really opens up just more possibilities of enjoying this hobby in other ways. You might say it's ugly, you might say it's cool. I think it's a bit of both. It's got looks only a mother could love, could I say, but I really like that about it. And then when you couple that with the unique flying experience, because it's not difficult, but it is unique, and again, we'll run you through that in just a second, it really makes for something different down at the patch. Now, speaking of patch, I talked about the undercarriage. This is a very sturdy undercarriage. You'll recognize the wheels here. These are actually off of the Avios bush mule. So they're a little oversized, but on the ground, this is smooth rough, but on rough grass we've flown this, it works extremely well. And in terms of how to fly it, what we're going to do when we go over to the flying section, I'm going to have a little camera on my chest so you can see my stick inputs, and we're going to sync that up to the flight videos, and I'll talk you through all those maneuvers. Flight times on that 1300, you can expect around 5 or 6 minutes. Again, the auto spool that's in there, that runs off the same pack. There's just an additional plug that goes in to power that. But you only need that on for a few seconds once you're rolling along the ground. As soon as you're up in the air, you can turn that off, and it will just all the lift will be naturally generated from the turning motion of the blades here. Speaking of blades, I'm going to turn it over now, and you will see it's actually quite a cool modern design. They almost look like 3D helicopter blades on this. These are to a point balanced out the factory. It's always good to balance them or double check it yourself. Same goes for the propeller, but all in all, it's a really nice, unusual package and a very cool scheme, and it's just very different. But don't be intimidated, because it's actually a lot of fun to fly and relatively easy too. Definitely it's not your first model or even your second model, but if you've got a few models under your belt and you're looking for some good, cheap, clean fun, you cannot go wrong with the G2 V2. So with all that said and done, if we're ready, and if the wind dies down, which I think it is, we'll go out there and give you a flight demonstration of the new Durafly G2 V2. Okay, so we are out here at the field. We were over at the bench, and now we're over here on the field with the Auto-G2 V2. And we're going to give it a flight demonstration. I'm also going to give you a little bit of a demonstration on how it handles on the ground, because it's exceptional. Also want to note, I talked about balancing just out on the over on the bench there. I did find that it needed, the blades needed a little more balancing, so I just put some black tape where it was needed. Now, when it comes to balancing the 3-blade head, treat it as a 3-blade propeller. So you assemble the head, put the blades on, and then just pop it on your prop balancer and balance it as you would a normal propeller. Because if you see any wobbling on the ground, especially when you flick the auto switch, if you see any of that, you'll see that in flight as well. So just make sure you double check, keep the balance on your blades before you fly. Once it's balanced, it's beautiful flying, as you will see. Also, a worthwhile tip on the axles of the wheels, put a bit of silicone grease or something like that. It's not so much to help them move, it's just to dampen the axle there a bit, which again creates a much more pleasant flying experience in terms of acoustics. So we're going to power up and I'll give you a quick taxi around. Okay, so the wind has dropped a little bit, the sun is trying to come out before it sets. Just to tell you guys, I've set this up exactly as you'll see in the quick setup guide. The quick setup guide is that sheet of A4 paper that's provided with all HobbyKing models now. The Auto-G2 V2 is the same. Those are my settings that I'm flying with here, just in case you were wondering. The full build manual is available to download on the files tab of the model listing. But the point is, I'm going to be in full rates, high rates, pretty much throughout the flight, apart from on roll. You don't really use roll that much, maybe only to correct a little bit of left roll on takeoff. But other than that, you're using a lot of rudder. As you will see with this handy onboard camera, viewers wondering what this is, you should be able to see my sticks now. Okay, so anyway, let's start with the taxiing. So I've got motor on. Actually, first thing I'm going to show you, sorry, this is the auto spool. Ready? There it is. Now such a cool sound. You only need that on when you're initially taking off. As soon as you're up in the air, just flick that switch and off it goes. This is just a 2-position gear switch, for example. So for taxiing, I'm not going to have it on. So let's give it a little taxi now. You ready?
Ready?
Holding in full up elevator. And you can just see how nicely it handles. It doesn't want to tip over. I'm on high rates on the rudder, so it's turning quite nicely. And those big wheels and more sturdy undercarriage are really doing the trick. So with that in mind, I'm going to turn it downwind. That's just the wind turning the head naturally there. It needs to be a little bit faster rotation speed for takeoff. And I'm now going to bring, where's the wind? Bring it round into wind. Ground handling's done. There's a bit of a breeze, but that's okay. Now, when you take off, I don't need to show you my transmitter on the main camera because you can see it on the small one. You want to hold a little bit of right because it will want to veer to the left. And without further ado, let's do a takeoff. So here's the spin. Let that get up to speed. Power on. Feed in the throttle. Little bit of right, and away she goes. You saw my switch there, I immediately put the auto spool off, and now it's just spinning with the force of nature. How's that looking on camera?
Gorgeous.
All right, oh, good. It's got a little bit of a vibration in the axle still and needs a bit more lubrication. The wheel axle, that is. So I'm going to bring it around and see if we can get the blade fart, as I call it. Ready for this? Here it comes. Oh, you hear that?
Nice.
Yeah. If you do any banked, high banked turn, it will make that blade fart sound, as I call it. Now, as you can see from my sticks, I'm almost exclusively using rudder in the turn. So if you are a pilot that flies helicopters and flies fixed wings, you'll have no problem with the Auto-G. Go up for a stall turn. There we go. Grab it on the elevator. That will slow you down. You'll have no problem flying the Auto-G. If you're a fixed wing, exclusively a fixed wing flyer, and you know how to coordinate your turns, you'll pretty much have no problems. If you are just simply a banking yank pilot, you'll need to get used to using a rudder, because you do need to use the rudder. Absolutely. Again, as you can see from my sticks, I'm barely using any aileron at all. It's all about the rudder. We'll go up and do another, what do you call it, hammerhead, stall turn? It's a stall turn, isn't it?
I call it a stall turn,
Catch
yeah.
the elevator, you see? If you pull up on the elevator when you're building up speed, it will slow you down. Don't just drop the throttle. That's definitely something you don't want to do. Right, let's bring it in for a full power pass. You ready?
Ready?
This is full power now. Now it's not a fast machine, but it's a fun machine. There it is, banking past. And I bring it up again. Again, lots of rudder in the turn. And blade fart. Very nice. And you can slow it down quite nicely too. Let's get it into wind a bit and I'll slow it down. I'm feeding in some up elevator, using rudder to correct almost exclusively. And it's just a very, very unusual sight, but it's a very interesting and different flying experience. I've really enjoy flying this thing. It doesn't do much in the way of aerobatics or anything. You can attempt a loop, but you'd need to be very high to do it. I know other people have done it, but just for the sake of you know, keeping this all in one piece, I'm not going to attempt it today, but it can be done. Now look at that, I'm riding the wind a bit. I'm feeding in throttle as I've come into flare, and I'll try and do a 3-pointer touch and go. Holding in, a bit more throttle. Look at that, look at that, look at that, tail drag.
Nice.
Yeah. That was very, very nice. And this is my favourite, just to kick the rudder over and catch it. And then we'll do a faster touch and go now as I do a bank turn like that. How's that looking on camera?
Very good.
All right, now we'll do a straighter approach now, more like a plane in that sense. So I'm bringing it in, I'm gonna keep the a little bit of forward elevator, and then we'll do a touch and go. There we go. Now, no auto spool, that's all the natural rotation of the head. And then, look, I didn't even pick up on the elevator, just let it naturally climb. Bring it around again, cut the throttle, pull up on the elevator to keep the nose up, and then blade fart.
What does it take? Just make a turn?
Yeah, just make a tight turn. It doesn't even need to be fast. It doesn't even need to be fast. Ready?
Nice.
Now there is a little, I apologise, I clearly haven't put enough lube on that axle, because that's what you can hear there. You hear that sound?
It's just the wheels, yeah.
Yeah, but you hear the whirly bird sound?
Oh yeah.
Alright. Now what's my time? And my time is telling me it's time to land, but I think I've got a little bit more in the pack. So
I like it, the low RPM makes it sound like it's a massive machine.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it.
When there's a bit more wind, you can really, really ride it in the wind and do it almost near vertical descent. But I'm going to flare into this landing now. Power, 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 flare, flare, flare. Look at that.
Stylish.
That's why, just so you know, it's in this Tundra-esque scheme, because it can pretty much perform like a Tundra in terms of very, very short landings. And this is even in not much wind at all. I'll taxi it back round. There she is. So that was a little demonstration of the Auto-G2 V2. It should be available as you watch this. If not available in all warehouses right now, it should certainly be available for pre-order, and then soon in all warehouses. Parts will be available, including the critical parts, of course, blades, propellers, and the like. But if you're looking for something different, ugly, yes, but at the same time, so cool looking that it's not ugly, if you see what I mean. You can't go wrong with the G2 V2. Is it easy to fly? It's not uneasy to fly, but it is a bit of a challenge. So if you want to push your boundaries a bit and try something new, then this is definitely for you. Or if you're a fan of autogyros and you want something that's simply plug and fly, and you can take to pretty much any field in pretty much any conditions, the G2 V2 is for you as well. I think that about wraps it up for this flight review of this new release from Durafly. Okay, thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you at some point soon. And I do mean that, because we've got some very, very cool products coming now from HobbyKing. Just on a quick side note, you know that we've been busy in the latter part of this year. We've been opening up warehouses across the globe again. Stock is coming back up, and I think 2024 is going to be a very good year for HobbyKing. And by that, I can also include some very, very cool products coming. One of which was over there, and Andres, I know you've seen it. It's very cool, right?
It's really cool.
Very cool. Yeah, unique, again. Yeah. Different to this, but certainly unique. Anyway, more to come. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.